we go and get into some of the things that are happening this week. So I feel like I need an intro. I'm gonna make an intro real quick. Watch me make an intro because it needs an intro. I'm not gonna lie, like I need something to entice the people. And that's the coolest part about what I'm making. It's like this is a work in progress. This is going to be a literal visual representation of a creative process that is going to evolve over time. And so the first thing we're going to do is create an intro for this. And I'm going to show y'all how I'm utilizing technology to expand the vision. Y'all peep that? 11/11, we got an event coming up, 11/11. I'm gonna put that on the flyer up there too. I bet. I need you to help me create an introduction script that is providing context for a specific form of YouTube video called Visionary News. Now, this news is basically all about providing insight into the scientific and technological breakthroughs that are happening globally that are not really being promoted on mainstream news platforms. And so I need a catchy representation of what this sort of media will be about that will hook audiences off rip and immediately get them intrigued about what is going on in the video and what they're about to consume. And that's a really beautiful way to use AI, right? So we can literally utilize AI to structure our ideas. We can utilize AI to be more clear about how we are utilizing our words and the intentions at which we are going about creating, right? Being aware of the things that are happening in the world is really good investment wise as well, right? Because if we can know the technological shifts and the economic shifts and the scientific breakthroughs that are happening in the world, then we can also invest our money and our resources and our time and our awareness into those things, you know, whether that be literally investing into the companies and then those stocks going up and we make money, or investing our energy and our awareness and our education into the new technology so then we can utilize those technologies to build what we need to build as a creative and as an entrepreneur and as a visionary, right? Because this news and this form of content is for those that are looking to create their own reality. To do that, you have to understand where the world is going and position yourself in a way to really create what you want to create. And to do that, you have to know what's going on. And so these are for the people that want to build something for themselves, and that's art, right? So that's why my entire brand is called This Is Art Get Over It, because we're artists and we all create our own reality. All right, so let's tap in. Welcome to Visionary News, where we look beyond the noise to the signals of what's emerging. A space for creators, the thinkers, the builders of the new world. Today we're diving into the shifts redefining what's possible. Not to predict the future, but to understand the direction we're moving in, because awareness is the first act of creation. This is Visionary News. Stay aware, stay awake, stay ahead of the shift. The first thing that we're going to look at is something called floating droplet electricity. It's a device that harvests energy from raindrops. So researchers at Nanjing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics developed... Alright, so off rip, this is most certainly a place in China, right? Yeah. So China is developing, not the entire country, but a specific university in China is developing a way to harvest energy from raindrops. That's insane. And we already got solar panels. Now we're getting raindrop electricity. So we're learning how to utilize all these different elements of the earth to then create energy from. And so this makes me really realize that we're not very far off from free energy, right? We actually probably have technology that allows people to have free energy. I actually saw on Instagram as well, this is really dope, that there is something called plastiline now, to where this guy is creating a form of gasoline out of plastic, right? So we got plastiline, we got solar panels, and we got droplet electricity. All of these things are just representations of ways in which we can utilize our resources around us more intentionally, more sustainably. And so we got to understand too, like, why is it that these technologies exist, but the funding is not necessarily going to that? Because if the people at the top really had our best interests in mind, then these would be getting the funding, so that people at the bottom would not be having to slave so that they can get a check, because they're only getting a check so that they can get energy. Money is a form of energy, it's a form of currency, and that current flows like water. That's why it's called currency, right? And that water, we also got hydroelectric water, hydroelectricity. But that currency is a physical manifestation of energy. And so, if there's such a way to get free energy, then the people at the bottom wouldn't really be needing to work and be slaves to get energy, because they already got energy there for free. So, this form of technology and this level of thinking is something that can only really become manifested if we all work together. Because I can say, oh, there's this, and the third, but if we don't collectively start pushing these agendas, then the people at the top, they're not going to push it for us, right? So it's really dope that this does exist. Another thing that we'll tap into real quick is optomical quantum optical atomic clocks. Move into defense operational domain. I actually met somebody. Currently, I was a newborn baby photographer, and I met somebody. He was a father, and one of the fathers that I took photos of, he was actually in quantum. He was in a field of like quantum atomic clockwork. He was working with the quantum clocks, and so he was telling me about it a little bit, but a lot of it was confidential, right? This level of technology is very new, and so there's a lot of confidentiality within that science and within that I'm not exactly sure what's going on with it. But what I do know and what I do remember from that conversation is that clocks right now all over the world, they're not necessarily exact, right? So if we got a clock here and we got a clock in London, I'm in New York, so a clock in New York and a clock in London, they're going to be going a little bit different, either a different pace or a different rhythm, or they're going to be off a little bit, right? Because space and time are a little bit malleable. They're actually very malleable, but atomic and quantum clocks really take away a lot of that malleability, because now it's like this is happening at the same time as that, simultaneously. And so this opens up the door for the world to operate on a lot more exact measurements, and something that and that's something that would change the entire world, because the way in which buildings are built is only done and only possible when we look at skyscrapers, right? For example, it's only possible because we have very, very close to exact measurements to allow that level of imagination to come to fruition. And if we can even more refine the exact measurements, our ability to create and imagine things and bring them into reality again become very, very highly capable. We become even more capable as a human imagination species. So it's really dope. And the thing is, it's like this level of exactness is going into defense and operational domain. So it's like a lot of our values right now are going towards military purposes. A lot of the money is going towards military purposes, and a lot of our energy is funding that level of consciousness, and we just got to change that. So I'm gonna leave it at that for today. I know it's a very short one, and I am feeling a bit tired, and I don't want to over extend myself, right? Because balance is very important, and one thing that is very, very important that we all got to start prioritizing is our health, right? Health is wealth, and so that's why as well I'm not operating in my clearest mind, and that's why a lot of my thoughts don't feel full. And it is what it is. We're human. That happens, but I would rather take that break and be able to come back next week with a clear mind and more focus when it comes to providing this series of information. So I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna get to bed, and we gonna run it up again next week. But again, this hoodie, you can find it on my website 11/11 on November 11th. And if you like it, this one's called Aurora, and